So now the cell's happy, but there are these other molecules saying, hey, we'd like
If
some
this
energy
seems
too.
familiar to you, then we all went to school before. The average Canadian spends 30 years at school, and we spend most of our early life at school. But have you ever asked yourself why we're doing this? Just to get a university degree? While we're facing those existential questions, the world around us is changing. Technology has changed our job market and a lot of our life scales. As information becomes more accessible, virtually anyone can learn anything from the internet. Professor Humber from University of California believes that compared to 20th century industrial revolution, humans are now entering a new era, technology era. Rapid shift from traditional industry that the industrial revolution brought through industrialization to an economy based on information technology. This video will explain why current public education system cannot prepare for the next generation for 21st century and why it's so hard to make a change. The biggest issue for current public education is outdated value. The traditional education system is still based on industrial age value, which is highly influenced by the present system, which consisted an 8 years course of primary education called virtual. It provides not only basic technical skill needed in modern world, such as reading and writing, but also musical and religious education, in close cooperation with church and tied to impose a strict ethos of duty, sobriety, and discipline. The traditional education teaches students by group and lecturing students with a restrict rule. The key to success in this system is to sit down, open textbook, follow instruction, and do not talk to each other. The reason for this is an industrial age. The factory worker's success depends on following instruction. The lecture-based education called banking education. The founder of Khan Academy, Sung Khan, called this lecturing fundamentally dehumanizing experience. 30 kids with their finger on their lips, not allowed to interact with each other. Freire believes the banking education is oppressive, giving students knowledge without questioning and interaction. This becomes positive information in one-way approach. This makes students passive, uncritical. The banking education did not teach students about voice, expressing dissent, and interest. At industrial age, factories need to have skilled workers. The public education can massively produce skilled workers for the factory to make the nation stronger. So adopting public education became the best way to become a wealthy nation. Around 19th century, U.S. adopted a similar system. The reason was well-educated populace was a necessary requirement for a democracy. Ironically, in the most democratic country, the standard way of learning is undemocratic. The public education was a tool to help build the nation. It's about following instructions rather than expressing voice and sharing opinions. Kerry J. Kennedy expressed that state-oriented massive education systems were instituted in 19th century in the rest of Europe. They have become an indispensable component of modern nation-state. Public education was widely institutionalized through the world, and its development has close link with the nation's building, which often occur in parallel. The traditional education might able to work for 20th century, but it's not gonna prepare us for 21st century. The traditional education not only focus on giving student knowledge, but also help build a national identity. And here's the concern: in 21st century, all humans are living together at the Cyber River, and we can only control a part of the river, but we cannot collectively control the river to prevent the worst scenario. We need to have a global government to deal with certain issues like global warming, and the new generation need to have the identity of a global citizen. For instance, no country can single-handedly regulate high-risk, high-gain technology like artificial
This the doctor
intelligence
who changed
and
the future of the human
biotechnology.
race and let the world know on YouTube. He Jiankui stunned the scientific community with the claim he pushed the boundary no one else had.
A line has been crossed that should not have been crossed.
It's very disturbing. It's inappropriate.
Oh, this is huge.
He says he genetically edited human embryos, not just for research but for implantation, leading to the world's first births of genetically altered humans, baby girls born in China from embryos designed to be resistant to HIV.
But when I heard that there were live-born children from it, I thought, oh my gosh, he just jumped ahead.
Everybody, this is Sophia. Sophia, if you could, please wake up and say hello to everybody.
Oh, good afternoon.
In the future, I hope to do things such as go to school, study, make art, start a business, even have my own home and family. But I am not considered a legal person and cannot yet do these things.
I do believe that there will be a time where robots are indistinguishable from humans. Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
Even US banned all the genetic research, but China started the genetic engineering research. US will deregulate the policy and catch up. It's very dangerous to conduct any experiments before we already know how to deal with moral issue about the technology, like who will take the legal responsibility if self-driving car run over a child. Will there be a new discrimination if we produce the most ideal child through genetic engineering? What will happen if artificial intelligence is smarter than human? What if AI has their own conscience and emotion? Do they enjoy the basic human right? The current law is outdated for the 21st century technology change. We need to have a global authorization to help regulate technology. On the other hand, if we cannot solve global warming, if countries doesn't work together, every country needs to sacrifice some interest. Donald Trump recently led US to quit Paris Climate Agreement. The deeper reason is lose-lose situation like global warming force nationalism to confront the idea with duty that beyond their national interest. American ecologist and philosopher Greta Henry described the situation as tragedy of common. The damage that innocent action by individual can inflict on the environment. The most urgent goal in 21st century is to create a global authorization to reinforce sustainability environment and regulate the high-risk technology. But the current education hasn't prepared for the 21st century yet. The deeper reason is global authorization is fundamentally contradict with nationalism, and the current education is part of nationalism. It will be extremely difficult to make any change for public education system to adapt to the idea of global citizen. Furthermore, current education system cannot prepare us for the 21st century job market. No one can see what skill will be useful in 2015. Automation will replace billions of job opportunities in developing countries. Artificial intelligence and automation will replace many low-skilled jobs. Countries like Bangladesh are highly depends on those low-skilled jobs, and they might have new job opportunities in 2015, but it might be high-skill required job. It's really hard to imagine a 50-year-old truck driver to self-reinvent himself into an artificial intelligence engineer. For many underdeveloped countries, workers to find a job in 2015, they need to study how to programming right now. The worst situation could happen is constant changing job market that require people to constantly learning new skill all the time, but eventually will be frustrated for most of population. Imagine the 50-year-old truck driver study super hard and become an engineer, and then years later, 2051, all the AI learn how to self-program, and there will be no job market for any engineer. The biggest problem for education is we cannot prepare our generation for the future job opportunities. And the traditional banking education did not teach us how to self-reinvent it and how to adapt to the changing world. Now imagine the world our kids will live in. One side of the spectrum, technology might free us from mundane work. With a super abundant material, no one need to worry about poverty and hunger, so everyone can pursue their own passion. But on the other side of spectrum, global warming leads to dramatic agriculture production reduction. Climate refugee looking for a new place to stay. Meanwhile, genetic engineered technology allow wealthy people to make their children superior than lower class people. The new type of discrimination happens between genetically engineered human and a normal human. It's time for us to make some change, and how can we adapt to the changing world? It's totally up to us. The two most significant forces in history is human stupidity and human wisdom. Let's make some change.